However,
We're live.
Good afternoon and welcome to the City Glens Falls Water and Sewer Commission meeting. It's Monday, October 3rd. It's 2 o'clock. I think we open it up first to public participation. Is there anyone in the meeting from the public like to address the Water and Sewer Commission? Seeing no one, we have number 2 on our agenda is stormwater moment, swimming pools. Great topic for October.
Well, this is the time people are pumping them out, so this is the time.
Oh,
That
gotcha.
makes sense for us as
All
far
right.
as them pumping the pool out, to put their covers on for the winter so that, you know, they're pumping the water to usually the curb and then down to a storm drain, then out to a receiving body. And if the water has too much chlorine in it, it'll create fish kills and negatively impact the receiving waters. So basically, that's what the DEC is outlined here in the paper that you've received in your package regarding swimming pool discharges and their general conditions, along with the fact is if they're going to do that at some, depending on the size of the pools, they may need a speedies permit, or if they're not going to, if they're smaller than that, they have to make sure that they do a hold for 10 days so that the chlorine has dissipated, or the chemicals that they have within the water has dissipated enough to where it should facilitate a discharge to a receiving body, or whether it's a stream, river, or lake. Also gives you the criteria of what it should be. You know, it shouldn't be any visible chlorine, less than 0.1 part per million. pH should be normal, somewhere between the 6 and 9 range. It also says if you can have it stepped over rocks or a stairwell so that it cascades down, so that'll release any kind of chemicals that will oxidate and just come out into the atmosphere. So it gives a whole scenario there. So
10 days, huh? 10 days is enough time to do most of the
general rule,
release
as
of the
it says. Yeah.
chemicals. Great.
With that, any questions?
Even after the 10 days and it goes down a thing, is it okay to have that water go into our storm?
Well, I think I would have to say that you'd still have to meet the criteria of, less than or equal to the 1 part per million
Gotcha.
for chlorine. And pH should be within the 6 to 9 range,
All right.
and obviously it should be discharged slowly so it doesn't create an erosion effect, and wash things out, and create holes and sinkholes, and have Tommy out looking at sinkholes. Or storm drains creates cracking and falling in.
try to keep people playing the pools on the
Yeah. Any questions?
I just out of curiosity, I'm under the impression, and I don't know why, that all of our storm drains, if they're not intermingled and come here, go to the canal. Is that true? Or is there stuff that doesn't go there, or is anybody not?
I don't think they all go to canal. I think some go.
Yeah,
Out.
whatever doesn't cross-connect to pump, which we try to eliminate.
Yeah,
But
what
there
Chris,
still is, we all know there still is.
yeah, but what Chris is asking is if they're not cross-connected to us and come here, do they all go to the canal?
Yes.
They all go to the canal.
Wouldn't some of them go to Halfway Brook? Go the other way?
The other way, most of our outfalls are over by Fitch Brine, Havens Cove.
Okay. So most of them would go to canal. Gotcha. Okay. Or if we built the dry wells that we're doing, it'd just go into the ground, right? There's the preferred, any of the new stuff we've done where we've separated out, right? Good, Chris?
Yeah, I was curious.
Awesome. Number 3 is billing issues. Any billing issues, Bill?
I don't have any mic to.
4 would be our resolutions. So resolution 1 is to approve the minutes of our last, did everybody in the council get their packet? And if so, do we have a motion to approve the last meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Second resolution, resolution to approve of the warrant. Is there, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Third, is a resolution to move money from the fund balance to cover the overruns. You have that resolution in front of you. Any questions?
Where does the money come from?
The only place we have is to continue to take from the fund balance at this
Oh.
time. We under budgeted for electricity again from gas, and it looks like gas is gonna continue to rise for the next 3 months. We kinda slid through summer because we don't use much of any gas, but looking forward, we're probably not gonna have enough, not probably. And electricity is just trending, at the 75,000 rate, we just don't have enough in there. And as far as the sludge loading, we actually have some additional sludge than we have in the past, a lot of it because of the septic haulers, but also it's, that they put in that 8% environmental fee on earlier in the year, cover cleanup and things at the plant, and that was never discussed in the past and when we were doing the budget. So that's why the wheelabrator, we asked for an increase on that as well to get through the year.
Who wants to take toward the 8% cleanup fee
Wheelabrator,
Wheelabrator did?
yeah. That way you can get around the contract price by adding an additional charge.
When these prices go up like that, does Queensbury and South Glens Falls, do they help absorb that in the reconstruction costs?
There's several different costs. What would go, and you correct me if I'm wrong. I'll give you my sense so I can see if I'm right. So they would in the actual flow. So that rate will go up because that's calculated on our actual overhead and maintenance, right, or our
Yes.
actual costs of running the plant. So that will go up. But the reconstruction fees, no, that's what we've got to renegotiate, which we're in the process of, we've renegotiated with and in the process of signing a deal with Moreau. Next up would be South Glens Falls, and then third up would be the town, to renegotiate those things so that we could get fair price and in reconstruction fees. But am I saying that right?
Yep.
Look at that.
That all hinges back to the study you just completed?
That's correct. That study was what allowed us to say
That was big.
this is the current cost and this is the current cost of the reconstruction fund, and this is how you can, these are your options, how you would charge a new municipality or an old municipality for that. And that was very important for us in that first negotiation with Moreau. And we've sent them that finalized contract because the contracts were so old and we were just renewing them, that we utilized Matt Fuller, who we brought in to help us with the negotiations, to rewrite the entire contract. So it's now in the hands of Moreau and their attorneys. Mike, were you able to get them to figure out the
I
do the
just got
numbers?
the billing done and I'll start doing it. We got a rough budget in place and it's gonna be the highest price
Right.
otherwise, because we haven't done any cutting out of the budget yet. So
Yeah.
I'll give them a good top level
Good.
price.
Good. So what their response was is, thank you, but this new contract's a little overwhelming. Can you give us what the cost would be today? And so Mike was taking the formula that we'd agreed to and showing them real numbers so that they could see what it would stand with today. Because contract, that kind of contract, as our costs go up, that their payment of the thing would go up, and so they wanted to. That's where we are in the negotiations. Sent them a new contract, and they said, "Thanks, but what's this mean in real numbers?" And Mike is sending that back to them now. So, is there any other questions about the resolution?
I'll move the resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next is Ames, a resolution for Ames Goldsmith's pipeline project. So we have the project written out. Bill, do you want to talk about that?
Yes, I guess Chris and Jeremy can correct me if I'm wrong. Over the last, I don't know how many years, Ames Goldsmith has brought their waste via truck. Last 2 years.
The pipeline was recommended 2 years ago. They've been hauling their stuff down here by truck since 2017. And it creates difficulty for them, especially today's employment environment for truck drivers, managing it, storm, weather, stuff like that. We have to keep the roads clear. We've got an 85-foot drop coming down in the plant that the truck has trouble getting out of during the wintertime when it snows. So they decided to go with a pipeline that would commit Ames to staying with the city going forward in the future, which is a good benefit for the city. It's also a benefit for us because we have less truck traffic coming up and down this hill and driving around here. Their system is 2 or 3 protections against spills. They have a shut-off valve at their site, shut-off valve at this site, an altitude valve on the tank, so if the tank is too high, the mechanical valve will shut, and an overflow area around the tanks. So we do not foresee a problem with any of this performance.
I know it's a silly question, but there's meters, I assume.
They are metered coming down. Actually, they're metered putting into our system. There's a 2-inch line that goes in with a 2-inch magnetic meter. We get monthly readings from them. They're also required to test 3 times a week, and we use their numbers off of that, and then I do some testing on and off just double check everything. And we bill off those numbers.
And finally, what I think probably for me the most important is that they would pay for this pipeline, right?
Yes.
Not just laying it, but fixing the road afterwards, right?
Yes.
It's a 4-inch line?
4-inch line with a 2-inch communication line coming down that side.
Are they pulling that or are they digging that?
We're gonna be digging and pulling under Warren Street.
Yeah, to do some directional draining.
So we have a resolution to approve the hire a private contractor for Ames Goldsmith. It's intention to hire a private contractor to install the 4-inch industrial waste sewer force main.
Question, will we
I
own
gotta-
that?
Would we own it?
No.
They would own it.
They own it.
I think everybody's seen all the markings, and all the cones. That's the line.
So they have to maintain it
They're
also?
maintaining it, USPOs, everything is their responsibility. We're total hands-on.
And their contractor is Roselle. So that's who's doing it.
So this resolution is, or approval would be contingent on an ownership and maintenance agreement between the city and Ames, which David Clayfield is working on with Ames' attorney. And then the other contingencies are permits from the Canal Corp and
Railroad?
the railroad crossings, as well as the city's encroachment permit for street openings. So all those things need to happen. It's considered 100% approved.
So this resolution is just to, it would be the Water and Sewer Commission's recommendation for the council to approve this project, contingent upon those necessary permits and executed.
How do they get from Ryder Street to Gear Street?
Underneath?
Roger Street to Gear Street.
I think coming out the back door
Yeah.
entrance, towards, Cohen's.
So it's
Gear-
almost
Gear
there.
right
Street
at here.
actually
There.
goes across the rail tracks, it used to. And the back of their plant is on Gear Street, that's Phantom Street now, which is called.
Paper Street, yeah.
Uses,
Oh,
so they're gonna come out, across that old rail line, onto here,
oh.
and then come straight down.
There's private land or?
No, that's city.
Oh.
Except for
Gear Street actually could go straight from Catherine to Warren if you ever wanted to open it up.
Okay.
It's still ours, it just allowed it to be overgrown and they started using it, correct? This was my
Between
understanding.
Owens and
Yeah,
And
right.
Goldsmith is pretty much,
Just non-used road. So do we have, first of all, any more questions? Yes.
I got a question, just kind of a worst case.
Yep.
If they're owning it, to maintain it, their interest in, I don't mean to call anybody personally here, I'm just speaking very zoomed out. I don't want to offend. You know, a business's goal to put such a thing is to get rid of their waste, and if it goes away down the tube, that's great. But if there's some sort of deficiency in the pipe between there and here, and eventually something's going to either make the ground glow at night, or you know, fish belly up in the river or something
Absolutely.
like that, it'll be too late once that. Is there any sort of meter on their entrance at our reception, and those numbers are real close, or how will we know when it goes wrong before it goes really wrong, and therefore they'll be forced to get after it sooner rather than later? Is
First
this
of
not a
all,
thing like?
Yep, so the first part of your answer is they're liable for all of it, and they would be liable for any cleanup. Second of all, if I understand it correctly in the conversations we've had, is that there is a pressurized pipe. And if that pressure goes down, that shuts off their end of it immediately. Chris, am I saying that right?
I'm not exactly sure on that.
Okay.
But there's gonna be a new pipe, putting it in, we'll know pretty quickly, because they are gonna be pressurized coming down, it will start creating a sinkhole right there, they are responsible for cleanup. They know how much they're sending down, because they send it in batches.
So we'll know.
So we would be able to keep track between their site and our site, what's going on.
Yeah. We'll be able to tell from tank elevations.
I think there may be a flow meter up there, I'm not positive, I can't remember all the drawings on top of my head. We did everything we could to make sure that, it was safe as possibly could be, for any other event. And this is water, there's nothing explosive in here, there's nothing majorly hazardous. Metals, nitrates, water is the main three things in this. And they have to meet our local limits, so it's not a large amount of metals, as they do that.
And as Chris said, it's all, you know, high pressure PVC pipe that
Yeah.
welded joints. It will be air tested to a much higher pressure than they're going to supply.
Sure. Okay. Good to know. Thank you.
I got a question. Fifth whereas, it says cost associated in the project now. What's it mean now?
As opposed to later?
Yeah.
I don't know why that now is there.
I think it's
Question is the word.
now, therefore be it
Oh,
resolved.
now therefore be resolved.
Oh.
It just
Gotcha.
leads into the other paragraph.
Oh, all right. Yeah. Yeah, maybe we should move that now to the therefore, right before therefore, right?
Good catch.
Yeah.
Confusing.
No, that was a good, I mean, that was the whole thing, right? They're paying for this. In the long run, they'll save money. They're responsible for it. They're putting it in. They do pre-treat, right? We had time, I mean, this took a long time for us to get this far with them, right? They treat this material, and it took us, I don't want to be negative. We made them change the way in which they were sending us those metals to make it acceptable to us. And we did that by sending them some very, very hefty bills a number of years ago. Anybody else want to say that better than me? Can use that language
Well,
better?
a rocky relationship with them when I first started in 2016. They've improved dramatically, and they've been excellent to work with for any issues that we've had over the last 4 or 5 years. We've had no problems with anything.
Yeah, they were fined pretty heavily at one point.
Yeah, because there was stuff that was being submitted was too heavy, right?
They were putting nitrates down the sewer, which our local limits did not prevent, but they were causing pass-through interference in our process, and primary exploding and primary sludge. That is where we had to go after them to make them stop, and the EPA said you have to stop that. And it took some time, as it always does with pretreatment, but we didn't reach an agreement with them to put that put the system down on site, and that has worked very well since. We control the system, so we control the flow. Even with this pipeline, we still control the flow into our system, and they pay for any additional materials needed to process the material. So Micro-C is a glycol-based product that provides a BOD or food for the process. They pay for that, we do not pay for it.
Yeah, we battled with it pretty good there for a while.
Yeah, that's what I remember, that they had to make huge changes so that it wasn't a problem for us anymore. Now we've got a better relationship. They're paying to bring their waste here, and it's within our limits, and they're just looking to pipe it as opposed to truck it down the hill. And at their cost.
Yes.
There we go. Anybody else, questions? If not, do we have a motion to accept this resolution?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. Let's see, under discussion, A, acceptance in state-sponsored asset management program.
Yes, I believe the state put out a request for wastewater treatment plants to a new project they were looking at to do asset management programs for 50 wastewater treatment facilities throughout the state of New York. They asked for volunteer plants that would like this done. So I'm sure they probably got as many plants that were in the state to volunteer. We were lucky enough to be chosen as one of them. So this asset management program has come in and take a look at all of our equipment, look at our O&M programs, evaluate our systems, and tell us if we have deficiencies, where we can improve. And this will all be done under a grant from the state. They'll hire, I believe it's Arcadis, that what they were looking at to run this program. Arcadis may come out and subdivide it down to some other engineers, so we're waiting to see, what the next steps are.
I think it's did quite a bit of engineering here before.
They've done several
We're
projects.
familiar with the plan.
Yes, yeah, they're familiar. Now, that's not to say that they'll be the one working on this. They very well be the one because, they have a history here, whereas in other plants they may just go to an engineer that had history there and they'll be under their umbrella, so to speak.
So this is a great thing that Bill and Jeremy brought to me several months ago and said, let's try to see if we get selected. It doesn't hurt to have somebody come in a proactive manner and tell us how we're doing, right? And we just found out last week we were approved. So
Good job.
let's go Glens Falls.
It'll be nice. I feel like we spend a lot of time and energy making more efficient and replacing and upgrading. My belief is that they'll come in and give pats on the back for that, but it's just nice taxpayer-wise to have some justification for, good job, or
So-
if there's something still missing,
Yeah.
reason why.
It's always nice to have another set of eyes, just look at everything.
Objective.
Yep. And then also always the selfish intent, with their approval and telling us how good we are and what we've done, it'll work well as we apply for other grants moving forward.
Right,
Because we'll have a nice new assessment on all those things from them. Next up, Wheelabrator contract. Bill?
Yeah, I think we discussed it at the last workshop about, we met with Wheelabrator. They're looking at approving a 3-year contract. If we can get approval by January 1st. Chris and I met with some of the members of their team and went over a couple different things. They're looking at, right now we're paying,
$77 per ton.
is that plus the?
Yes, it is.
That's including the environmental fee. Now they're looking to bump it up to $108, including the environmental fee. So it'd be $100 a wet ton. Then they wanted to go to $125 and then $150. That's without the environment, the 8%. So we met with them. We asked if we can get it down to $115 and then $125. They agreed. They sent us a contract. We went back to see, asked them if that's the least they could go. The representatives are looking at it again. Verbally, they told us they think that's the best they can do, but they were gonna ask one more time. Right now, they're you know, their prices are well below their trash prices and stuff they're handling that they're really supposed to. They're not really geared towards biosolids at this facility. So we've had a very good run with them for 5 years. They're looking at a 3-year contract with 2 one-year extensions. So, and then by that time, hopefully we'll have an alternate source, whether it's the biochar, or we may have to go to ourselves with a dryer to try to lessen the impact of, you know, hauling water away, and not more or less biosolids. To give you some comparison, Chris, I think you can jump in here. What's it, $164 a wet ton at Saratoga?
County's new contract's $164 a ton, plus they're paying part of the fuel bill for the truck.
For landfill disposal. So I think we're still in a good position. If it holds steady, or if we get a bit of a sweeter deal, that's fine. But I think right now we can.
Do we have any minimum in the contract? Do we have to deliver to them?
Is there a minimum? I think there was a minimum of minimum tonnage.
I don't remember seeing one.
There wasn't the first one.
There was?
There was some, but nothing that we ever had to worry about.
Yeah, it was a pretty low number compared to. I mean, it was like.
In case there is an alternate source coming down.
Oh no,
the
they
road.
understand that. You know, if the alternate source shows up, I think they're more than happy to let us go and become a
I
backup.
said that the staff doesn't care for it.
Become a backup, yes.
That was a very good discussion where, if we did go to an alternate source, they had no problem being a backup for us, which was excellent for us.
Mhm.
That way we keep everything local. They're talking about handling it. They are the only facility that handles biosolids. They are handling it at a loss right now because garbage is paying around $100 a ton, depending on how much you haul in your garbage. There's different contracts, different people. Like we said, we're way below what the market rate is right now. But we do have to look at alternatives over the next 3 years and have something in place. Because at the end of that 3 years, they are not going to renew.
At the end of the 3 years, they're definitely not renewing it? Is that what you said?
That is what they told us.
They
They
did?
wanted, at the end of 3 years, it would be a backup.
Yeah, right.
They do not want to be the main
Okay.
anymore.
But they also said there were going to be 2 one-year extensions.
Right, so we're at 3 years.
That's in
But
the
I-
contract.
We get 3 years,
Yeah.
yes. At
No,
the end of 3 years.
I'm with you, but I didn't catch that
Yeah.
last piece that really we need to think of that. 3 years isn't a long time.
That is where we were looking at biochar, and we're also looking at a dryer and moving dual as we do this, dual direction, so if one falls through, we have the other.
Right, yep.
And if we can get it dry enough, it may be a fuel source even for
Yes, and that could be an option.
Wheelabrator.
Oh, so wait,
Discuss with
so
them.
if that was, all right, there it is. If we're able to buy the dryer and dry it, and we're not sending them all that water, then it might actually be a good, they'd look differently upon accepting that.
They will look differently upon it. Also, composting areas would look positively on it because they take that drier material, blend it with the wetter material, and it could dry the compost quicker.
Oh,
So there are benefits to the dryer. And the dryer type we're looking at, and this is very preliminary, is where we would not have an emissions charge or anything like that. No 503 through the EPA. We would recover our gases, everything through a condenser, and we would put the stuff back in the pipe.
right, and that's the grant that we're looking at, the
That's one of the
exploration.
things that Barton and Lujudas is.
Yeah, Martin Lujudas. Good. Okay. Anybody else questions about the contract? So, I mean,
There was something, Casella or something, that offered a emergency Wheelabrator stuff?
Yeah, if for some reason the Wheelabrator incinerator had to go down for maintenance or had to go down because it was a failure, we have Casella as a backup right now.
How
And
much does that cost?
that's, what was that, Chris, what was that contract?
$126 a ton. We'll be reaching out to them in the next couple of months to renew that contract.
Yeah, that's
We'll
a
go back.
yearly basis. They do that yearly.
But they,
Wouldn't it be much more than that if they weren't just a backup?
it'd probably be about the same. Oh, well, it'll be 164. We did a 2-year backup plan with them at 126. I don't think anybody saw the prices jumping to 164
Right.
per ton. The new backup will probably be 164 plus.
Gotcha.
Thanks.
Anybody else? C, a letter and website for lead survey.
We included some of the
Information.
information and letters that we're anticipating sending out to our water service connection customers. It's a lead line replacement, a copper and lead line replacement program that the EPA has instituted, where every water utility or municipality that owns a water treatment facility and distribution system has to have an inventory in place of every one of their service lines by October 16th, 2024.
An inventory in place.
An inventory in place. So what they're saying is you have to know not only your connection from the main line to the curb stop, but also from the curb stop to the customer's house, to where it meets the meter. So we have to know all of that. It's a massive effort. Obviously we have 5,000 connections that we're looking at. We have a history of tap cards that we're digitizing now. We're looking at all those. We're looking at some unknowns and things of that nature, where we may, you can see the letter. We have to fine tune them a little bit. There's a couple different typos that we have to go ahead and correct. I saw Ron out there doing the same thing I was doing this morning. After I read it 5 times, I finally found them. But this is all stuff that a lot of this stuff we learned about. Sheila did a lot of research on this and contacted Albany. This is a program that Albany's running. It's also a program that Queensbury's running. It's probably a program that most municipalities are going to take into effect, because at least you can get a little bit of customer education and also customer buy-in, so that a lot of people don't like people coming in their houses. Other times, some people like to help out. So either way, we can get some buy-in from the customers to see what they have coming into their houses and go through it. And Tom's field crew, whenever they're doing a repair now, we make sure that we document what they're working on and what's in the street, and depending on how far they go, that we know exactly what we have. And these are the things that we're probably going to move along with. It's a monumental task for not only us, but any municipality. It's one of the ones that EPA knows about. There's a bipartisan infrastructure law is allocating $15 billion for the nation. So, and that'll come down through the state, and that'll trickle down, hopefully, to the municipalities and helping them do this. Now, again, if you can see in some of the language, if you can read between the lines, nobody likes people going, especially a municipality, going on their property, and then no matter how good a job you do, they come back and they say, well, it was better before. There was no, the grass was greener. The grass was,
Yeah.
that
Oh, yeah.
sinkhole wasn't there. You damaged the foundation when it came in. So we're going to go ahead and make sure all of this stuff is documented before we do that. There's a lot of work to be done on whether we hire a private contractor to do this, and that'll all be determined from how many grants and things that come down. Another philosophy is, if you go in and you find a lead service, you should really replace it then, because you already know. You have to inform the homeowner that it is lead, let them know. We can test it, you know, and just because it's lead doesn't mean that it is leaching into the water. It still can be safe and things of that nature, but over time, that's what happens, is the lead leaches out, whether it's a lead joint, lead pipe, lead solder, and connectors, even the pigtails, you know. You see the documentation, there's a 164-page document from EPA telling you, you know, what you have to look at for when you're doing all this. They mentioned pigtails, they're less than 2 feet, you know, are good. I mean, if it's lead, just change it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's right there. You got it open. You might as well just change it and move on. So this is like I said, we're just in the infancy of this program. So we're going to try and move it along as I think as quickly as we can. We'll try to move it along. But I think also that we're in not great shape, but we're in a better shape than a lot of other surrounding municipalities. We've had one meeting, we're having another meeting tomorrow with surrounding municipalities to see what they're doing. Several of them said they have no documentation, they have no records, they have no way of knowing. We've talked to the assessor, the building department, contractors. Basically, we have a letter from Don Coates, who was the superintendent back there in the mid-'80s, and from 1986 on, everybody stopped using lead. So then, any home that was either redone or built, you know they're not lead. So that you go ahead and take them off of that inventory. And the inventory has to be audit-proof, so you have to be able to prove. You can't just say, oh, well, we know because the 3 other houses didn't have lead. No, you've got to prove that you know that house doesn't have a lead service connection, either on the municipal or customer side. And it's to the meter. Now, if there's lead throughout the house, that's going to be the homeowner's responsibility.
Yeah, you said test here, you don't have to test in the distribution system there. You don't have to test that, right?
No, because usually what they're saying is lead connectors, lead pipe is usually less than 2 inches. So, you know, most of the distribution system is 6 inches or bigger, so usually there isn't too much lead in the distribution system. It's usually connections and things of that nature that were used, you know, prior to 1986.
So if I can restate this, Bill, so that I want to make sure my understanding's right, because I quite often hearing this wrong. So we've got 5,000 properties in Glens Falls that we've got a couple years to complete a documentation of those, both 2 things. One is the service leading from our distribution center to their home, and then from their home into their property, right?
Yes, it's
So we
from
got-
the distribution center to the curb stop, which is
Yep.
our responsibility. And from the curb stop to the meter is usually the homeowner's responsibility. But
This case.
according to this EPA law, you're going to have to change both of them. They're putting all the emphasis on the municipality rather than
Okay.
anything on the homeowner.
So we start by digitizing tap cards for many of these homes, and so every home, every 5,000 has 2 pieces of information that you need to confirm. One is that you don't have any lead on yours leading to their house and theirs leading into their house, right?
Correct.
Okay, so you have 2 pieces of documentation for every one of the 5,000 homes, and much of that documentation we have on tap cards, and so we need to start one with digitizing those tap cards and getting them into that inventory, right?
Yes, we're doing that, but there was this also, Steve had a spreadsheet where he was pretty confident that there was probably 100 or 120 so connections that weren't verified, that they really don't know what it is, so they'll probably have to verify those and go ahead
And so with those, we will use this information, yes?
I think we'll probably send them out citywide just to reconfirm. Again, we have to have order proof. The spreadsheet is saying that this is what we think.
Okay, so we are gonna confirm with all 5,000 homes. We're gonna send this out, even though we've got tap cards
Mhm.
for over 4,000 of them that says that we believe it to be lead-free. Am I saying that right?
Well, that's going to the homeowner to check
Their
their
side.
side.
Right.
Tap cards tell us about
Our
our
side.
side.
Ah, there we go. Thank you. All right. So even though we're in good shape, those tap cards are all about our side only. So what database, where are we putting this information as we get it? As we digitize the tap card, are we putting this on a simple spreadsheet? Is it going into our GIS? What is it? Where's the information going?
A simple spreadsheet right now.
Simple spreadsheet. Okay, and so on one end, we're digitizing the tap card so we can take care of our end of known, and then we've got a couple hundred unknown on our side that we're taking care of, and then this is going to all homeowners to scratch or to do this stuff and ask for it back, and we've got a couple years to at least get this out now and then work with them, because a few hundred will probably reply right away. Right? And then we're gonna chase multiple people for a long time, right? Because they're not gonna wanna do this. So I mean the ones who get alarmed really quick, they're gonna respond right away. And you're gonna also get a lot of false, oh my God, yes, it's I'm ripping it out now, right? Sort of thing, right? Okay. And all right. So I hope that helped anybody else understand. It did help me. I was missing a piece of this. Yes, Sheila.
And Mr. Mayor, that's why we want to have them able to upload the pictures, because that will be our audit proof, as opposed to just the homeowner saying, oh, it's okay, it's copper.
Yeah.
This way we'll have the picture of it to say,
Good.
you can see that it's copper.
Great.
So they're physically gonna inspect everyone?
Well, what's going to happen, we're going to hopefully get, and Queensbury's already started this, and Chris Harrington said that he's gotten pretty good response. He got like 40% response in the first few months. So we're hoping we can get the same thing, and then, like the mayor said, we'll have to chase some people. Chuck Fuller goes out and he changes meters out and transmitters, so when he does that, he'll start looking at them so that we can verify.
One thing, if you look at our transmitter program that's been ongoing for years, you've got a lot of multifamilies and a lot of out-of-town homeowners that don't want people. Well, it's just difficult for them to coordinate a time to get in there. They have us look, or they have somebody else look at everything there. So it's not going to be as easy for us as Queensbury because of the number of multifamily homes.
Okay.
And then hopefully maybe we can get some of them at least to participate this way.
Right.
So if they went, say I go down to mine and verify this, not lead, what do I have to do with that?
We'd
Fill
like
out
you to
these
take a
forms
picture.
and take a picture.
So
Email it to-
that would be our, as Sheila said, that would be our audit proof. We'd be able to, so if the EPA comes in and says, well, how do you know, well, the homeowner called up and told us. Says they're gonna say that's not good.
I did mine online with Queensbury. You just go right online and clicked it in there, and you can upload photos at the same time, and then they tracked it back. Took me 5 minutes.
And so Sheila, have you talked to Megan and Chip? I mean, I saw the emails going around. At one point, we were kind of hoping this might be able to be done by cWater, but then I reached out to you and said, no, let's talk directly, because my feeling is cWater wouldn't be. So are we thinking separate page just for this, right? Separate web page?
That's what,
It's your
I've
current
spoken
thinking?
to Albany and to Queensbury, and that's what they've done. There's
Yeah.
a link on their homepage
Yeah.
where you just link, and of course it'll be in the letter, go to the address.
So I need you to get those details of what's needed and reach out to Chip and get in front of the Megan, who currently is.
Well, Megan and I have talked, and she's not comfortable doing it.
I know she's not, but that doesn't, and then it's got to go to my technology committee that will help you get the resources you need to do it. Fair enough?
And that's what
We met with the technology committee,
Good?
yes.
Yes.
And then from your email, we were going to meet with Chip too to make sure.
Good.
And go from there.
All right,
I think we have to go to Civic Flex.
gotcha.
To
To
develop.
develop that site, that page of the site. Good. Yes.
An internal problem or question I'm foreseeing, dealing with the general public is a lot of us do every day. There's gonna be a lot of people that don't have the ability to go down in their basement and identify this. I mean, I'm thinking 25% of Glens Falls is not gonna have, at least 25% between tenants and elderly. And I know, I've been with it 10 years now, and I still have a tough time differentiating an old copper and lead because it's corroded or whatever else. And this, of course, is at the base of where the water comes into the house. Because they could have lead throughout their house, but it might not be at the connection point.
Mhm.
So we could be chasing our tail for a long time. Do we have a plan for these people that, A, I can't get in the basement, I don't know where my water comes into the house. B, oh yeah, it's definitely lead, and we know it's not lead. I probably should have the answer since a lot is gonna fall on my shoulders, at least for a couple more months, but,
Yeah, because the next one that comes out is going to say, if you can't find it, we'll send Tom Gerard over.
yeah.
There you go.
Well, I've been
I like
working
that.
to deal with the state per house on my own.
That's great.
I was gonna say in the letter, if you're uncomfortable or can't or whatever, contact us, and then we're just gonna have to send Jeff or Robert's gonna have to go check it out.
Yep. That's why we got a few years, Tom. We're starting with the site and starting with the letter. And yes, I think that that's in the meetings that we have. We have to come up with a plan for the road crew, right? And it's gonna be a long-term, it's gonna take a while. So all we're really doing is starting here and talking to other communities, make sure we're all starting, well, nobody else figured out a better way to do this than that. So that's why Bill called it the beginning of the process.
So spread the word.
Very good. And so we should, though, before we send this letter out, before we develop, or even as we develop the site, we need to start to look at what we're doing about the end of this plan. Right, the beginning's well thought out. We haven't gotten to the point what we're gonna do. I would assume that you're gonna just get a lot of non-responses. 40% was, even if Glens Falls didn't have different in Queensbury, I wouldn't have thought that you were gonna get that many. I would thought you'd get 25% saying, oh my God, come here right now, I'm scared. That's what I would have thought, but we do need to figure out all the different scenarios and how we're gonna get to them all. Yes.
I'm thinking of the theme of people pushing their water bills off and then they get re-levied, and people not, for a while, letting us in to do meters, and then they just started getting hit with well, this is your not metered fee kind of thing. Can we do something like that, or is the consequence for not having this done by 2024 not equal to that kind of enforcement?
I haven't seen anything that I've read from EPA trying to put any kind of enforcement or any kind of penalties in place for homeowners that don't cooperate. I think they're more or less looking at us going out and what they call potholing at the curb stop, and what that is digging around the curb stop or using our vac kind to dig a hole, go down and look at the connections on both sides. More doing that if we can't get cooperations from the homeowner.
I think that many municipalities are gonna have a much worse, much bigger problem than we are, and so it's not that we think that they're gonna come and penalize us, it's that we're implementing a plan as best we can to address this. Even though those people there's gonna be a tough time getting this done. What's our plan and how we're addressing it is what will be judged on.
And if you go online and you look up the city of Newark, they had a very good program. They were almost like the model program to go ahead and do that. And they did their whole, Newark's a pretty big city in New Jersey. They had a lot of lead service. They had like 23,000 and they got them done within 3 years. So, you know, it's a monumental task, but they proved that it's doable. And the engineer that ran that program was CDM, and we all know we've had CDM here before too.
Okay. Any other questions?
And again, you know, we have to see, you know, where the grants and where the funding hopefully trickles down from and to.
There's a grant for this, what if we get,
Hopefully it hasn't come through yet, but you know. And then again, you know, how does it get paid for? That's what everybody's hoping, that the grant program will help.
That'd be my pushback.
Yes, and I mean, that's how they did a lot of the funding themselves. What's did Albany saying? They offered a grant program, you know, through their own fees, so. And I know Newark had several different funding sources that they pulled money from.
I'm just thinking the amount of workload that this street crew does now, taking somebody and maybe we could dedicate a new hiree or a new apprentice to that task, and here you go.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, we
Just a thought, I know that
I
these
think-
guys are busy.
We don't even have a
industry.
way to communicate with the 5,000 homes in City Glens Falls. So C-Click Fix and other things, we don't even have a plan to get people's email addresses, right? We don't, and so you're right. It's just about looking at this whole problem and trying to figure out how to address how best to move forward and address it. I think we've got a beginning idea, but we need to continue to explore and see what we're going to do. I also think it's great. Thank you, Sheila, for the confirmation, for helping me to understand, because I heard in the first meeting that we talked about this, that we've got all these tap cards and we really only have about 150 that we have no idea. That's only on our side. And so what we've got is we need to create a plan to where we're going to communicate and interact with every household in Glens Falls over the next couple of years. So therefore, we ought to do all we can to get updated records regarding everything of them, so we can communicate with them about a multitude of things. So never fail to take advantage of a crisis, right? We need to contact them all. Some will be easy because they'll reach right out to us with this letter.
When's the next Gerard reunion?
Gotta do it.
40%. When's the next Gerard reunion?
Bill, we ought to tell Chuck, if you haven't already, from this point on, when he's putting the transmitter,
Yeah.
go into the basement,
Yeah.
verify.
He's down
that-
there anyways, next to the
Yeah.
meter.
Is it?
Actually, he has been. Come to find out, so we do have
So-
information. I don't know how far back it goes because I don't know.
Yeah, and what we should do is when he's doing that, we should have him take a picture.
When we put in the transmitter information, when we get it back, we put in whether it's
Yeah.
copper or galvanized.
Yes, so we have some information on
Okay, so we're not looking at all 5,000, just 480,
Really nice to do
or 4,000,
Yeah, yeah.
4,500.
Transmitter program, we could have done
Does that make you
it.
feel better?
Yes, it does. Hey, look, you got to take, right? We got to take our inventory and see where we are and look to address this. Some other cities, this is not ever gonna be done. And I think for us, as long as we're working on it and we've got a plan to address it, then we're better than some, and see what we can do. Any other discussions? Next, primary clarifiers.
That's a picture of a rail on the primary clarifiers, but we have our contractor in, they're doing the spraying of the walls. You know, they did some fixing of missing concrete, and then we talked about we had a large hole underneath by the screw feeder. And we thought it was one size, but when they got down there and started cleaning it, it was like 3 times the original size. So that took a lot more material to fill. But that's some of the spray and the chain. You can see the gray is the spray, and there were some portions they missed, so they have to go back in and do some of the number 1 tank over there, and number 2 right now. Number 1's been drained from, right, Chris?
Yes.
So it's drying right now. Those are the walls that were sprayed, and you can see that all the metal components were supposed to be sprayed too, so you can see the shaft that needs to be sandblasted and repainted. See the walls. And you should see the wall and difference of the floor. We didn't do the floor because it would just wear off from all the grit and the sludgy material. And some of the spots that we saw that weren't coated, so they have to go back and recoat those along the cement blocks there. So they didn't get into all the aggregate. You can see some of the spotty holes that they were going to go and try to take care of, and some of the more steel that wasn't lined. And that was just a picture of a change. Christopher, you can see some of the metal that still wasn't done. And behind that sprocket. And the wall up above that they didn't realize had to be done too, so. See underneath, that's where it's out of the water, and actually what happens is Chris was describing to them is that's where the water initially comes in, and that's where all the gases come off the water, so you have all the hydrogen sulfide, and that's what really eats the cement. So that's really one of the most important areas that needs to be done, and that crack up in the corner needs to be addressed. And that's the wall we were talking about underneath. And that's the Butler pond. So, yes, well, that's empty right now. We haven't used that reservoir since the spring. And what we do is we usually drain it to let the so that it doesn't grow algae. It kills all the invasive species and vegetation along, so we don't have any problems with it. And if you look down, you can see that little piece of iron right there. That's where the water comes into the intake, goes down to the intake.
So you drain it, just every fall?
Year. No, every year. Every summer, that one's the first one we use. We use all the water out of that, and then we use the other two. Wilkie and Keenan. But this is the Butler Pond intake. You can see how we're cleaning it. Sprain it down. That's the grate for the intake. That sort of stuff. And that's how we're draining it through that valve. I don't know if anybody saw the bridge completed with those sides on it and stuff, but that's the bridge. Is there any prior to that one?
No,
Chris?
that was it.
That was it? So that right now, they have some spots to do in tank 1. They're in tank 2 right now, cleaning it all and doing everything they need to do to tank 2. As soon as that's done, they'll jump over to 1. Starting next week, we'll be replacing the scum troughs on 1 and 2. And once they're done, we'll fill up 1 and 2, and then we'll move over to 3 and 4 to do the scum troughs on those. Any questions?
Next is AT&T cell tower installations.
I think this has been beaten around for the last couple of years. I'm only familiar with it since last year. But finally got all the approvals from Suez because Verizon put their antennas on one tank, and now AT&T is going to put their antennas on the other tank. But I didn't want to avoid any warranties with Suez because they have a 20-year contract with us to go ahead and take care of our tanks. You know, if there's any problems with them, they have to go in and take care of them. So, you know, any well points or anything that AT&T does, I want to make sure that we have consensus of how everything looks now and after they do their work. Because if anything happens, it's going to be on AT&T to have Suez do the repairs. So AT&T started work last week. They did some initial groundwork in Coles Woods. We made sure that they knew exactly what they could do and what they couldn't do. I had Bill Blood from Friends of the Coles Woods out to make sure that they were aware of it. So they're all aware of it. I put a call into him to make sure that what we just did, made a little trail in so that they can go ahead and do their work. So that part is done. We met again on site today. They should be done in probably a month. I don't know how much stronger I could have put it in the emails that as soon as the first snowflake falls, there'll be no more work. They can have access to our property, but they can't have access to the trails. So they understood it. They feel that they're going to be done with all of their work and everything they need to do. Anybody wants to go up and see it, I'm sure I can show you. They'll have a crane in there for a little bit to put all the work around it. Verizon's, if you look at the tank, I believe it's tank 1, Verizon's is on top of the tank, but around the circumference of the tank. AT&T's will be right on the top of the tank. All of this has been approved by Suez. It's been through structural engineering and all of the other.
So we'll start saving money by January 1st, is that?
I hope to.
No snow until January 1st either, right?
When did they start?
They started last week. I mean, we've met several times. I don't know how many times I've been out there at that site. Tom had his crew go in and move some of the electrical lines that were going to be in the way that we'll have back up before, you know, anybody wants to do some night skiing or anything in the trails.
How much money is going to be generated from cell towers for the city?
I think it's $40,000 a year.
That's the number right there.
Any other questions? Personnel.
Personnel. I know we've talked about this at a few different meetings. We still have no interest in our electrical. We have no applicants for our electrical position. Judy's advertised in several different places, and we talked about it last meeting. And one of the biggest stumbling blocks, we believe, is the compensation package, and not the benefit package, but actually the salary. So I think we need to do something about, you know, getting that salary, you know, up to where we can attract a qualified electrical technician, basically, because that's what it is. Because he's not only going to handle electrical work, he's also going to handle some of the instrumentation that go hand in hand here. So
Have you made a suggestion for your 2023 budget?
we have made a salary suggestion. I think that Judy's probably going to meet with you.
Yeah, sure.
And we're probably going to go and figure out what we have to do. And again, there's some, you know, not issues, but it's just what it is, because it's a union position. There has to be some negotiations and things of that nature, but we don't believe there's anybody in-house that's qualified for it. And I did get an exciting phone call that once we do get a qualified electrician in, that BOCES is looking to have a student come along, like an intern, for an internship, which would be nice, you know.
Yeah, nice idea.
To get not only, you know, help out, but, you know, he's definitely got to be with a qualified individual.
Have they ever done an electrical safety program here at the plant citywide?
I don't know if we've done it yet. It's part of our electrical upgrade that John Gold's working on.
Okay.
It's what we've talked about, Jeremy, that we've gonna build into the contract.
So there's gonna be another expense of the clothing and.
Oh, yeah,
everything you
the arc
need.
protection, yep. Yeah, we
PPE.
talked about all that, yep, yeah. And that's one of the reasons why we didn't want to work on that high voltage that we brought in Gus and his firm, because they're, you know, highly trained and that kind of stuff.
He's a man.
The problem down here is we need an industrial electrician.
Okay.
And that's a problem. Right now, our salary's set for an electrician.
You're looking at 40, minimum of $40 an hour.
Saratoga's hiring an electrician for the street, light bulbs, light bulb and red lights, 56,000 equal. That's Saratoga Springs. Industrial, going up. I've got numbers on my desk.
I think I was paying my guys pretty close to $40 an hour, and then they had benefits on top of that.
Yeah.
So we'll continue to work on that, and hopefully our electrician is leaving November 4th,
Yes.
so we're getting down under the gun here, so we're gonna have to make some sort of.
She's gone, we have to pay prevailing wage for not just one electrician, 2 electricians. When they come to do something, and it's not immediate, it's, we get them in here, not like now, where I have a motor burn out, we got a motor sitting there, we change it. Might be a week or 2 before I get a guy in. And then we're gonna be paying prevailing wage for 2 electricians. We're gonna probably pay,
Why 2? I'm sorry, I didn't
as they
know.
sent them that way, Mr. Mayor, when they come from outside.
So if you call somebody tomorrow, you got an emergency, they send two, they don't just send one.
Correct.
You don't have a choice.
That's the way those electrician companies work.
Great. What's their prevailing wage?
I don't know, but a heck of a lot higher than what we're paying.
Gotcha.
We're probably looking at doubling the electrical budget if we do not get an electrician.
Well, I guess they're probably doing $100 an hour. I mean,
I'm guessing outside contractor
For the
paying
contractor.
industrial electrician
Yeah, because
about
you're paying the
$100.
company and the man,
I
so.
don't know if you know it or not, but Rosella's got an electrical division now.
Mhm.
Michael Lewis is a contact there if you need to get a hold of somebody.
There's also a company, RASP, R-A-S-P, over in South Glens Falls, that they're big into, hip boxes and stuff, also instrumental. So a lot of my piano boxes are instrumental.
Our problem isn't just that, it's, we have a guy hired here, he learns the plant, he knows stuff.
Well,
You
I'm not
bring in
saying-
somebody from the outside, he's gotta figure it out. And it could be anything from a control box all the way back to an MCC 100 feet away inside a building. And that's where they have to start going along, where now we start the clarifier number 3, the fuse blows, we know the fuse blows, we went there. The electrician changes, we don't have an electrician on site. So either somebody with electrical knowledge has to change it, or we have to bring somebody in for that fuse at $100 an hour times 2.
Great. Any other good news?
Well, Tommy hired 2 new guys.
Hey,
There you go.
Yeah,
Very
You
good.
got a guy from, came over from the cemetery, right?
One of our part-time help from the cemetery, took the labor job in water and sewer field operation. And we started a gentleman today that, was in the service, he was a mechanic in the service, and, he had a pretty good background, but he's got a couple kids at home that he didn't wanna leave for 3 months at a time, so he took the job. Don't know how long we're gonna hold him on, but he's started out, bells on his shoes today, he was ready to go, so we're full staff,
Yeah, I know.
field operations.
He was working on wind turbines, so he was traveling all over the country, so that's what he wanted to be home, so we're very fortunate right now.
Very good. Thank you. And I didn't mean that sarcastic as to you guys. It's just any other good news. I'm sorry. It's budget season. Right? This is why they don't pay me the big bucks. I think that is it. Personnel, field crew. That was the next thing. is
That was the
Tom's?
field- yeah, that was-
Great. That's good news. I don't believe we need to go into executive session. Is there anybody?
I want to clear one thing up. One of the very first things, I think Chris asked a question about stormwater. We do have stormwater that goes in Halfway Brook over by Bowman Avenue, Webster Avenue, Monument, that comes off the Glen Street area, over by Quaid Street, Chester, that all runs into Halfway Brook over
That's-
on Bowman Avenue.
Yeah.
See that? Thank you.
I know I'm on camera, so I don't want to be said I was wrong. So.
No. I was, yeah, all right, cool. I wasn't just imagining. Because we have this unique thing in Glens Falls, right? We're in between 2 watersheds, right? One half of the goes towards Halfway Brook and towards the Champlain Canal, and the other half. I look at that. It's 9 months. I have learned a couple things. That is awesome. All right. Okay. No executive, so you see the next proposed meeting dates. And does anybody have a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Okay.
All in favor?
Yep.
We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.